Welcome to Beyond Six Figures, the podcast that helps business coaches to micro-niche, get noticed, and become fully booked. Learn from top industry leaders who've successfully taken their businesses and their lives beyond six figures. Get ready to level up your coaching business and make this world a better place, one business at a time. And now, here's your host, Ziv Raviv.
Hello, and welcome to Beyond Six Figures. Today, our guest with us is Chris Ducker, a serial entrepreneur, a best-selling author known as a leading authority on personal branding and on virtual team building. Chris has built multiple seven-figure businesses, including a 450-employee outsourcing company in the Philippines, and amassed over 10 million podcast downloads, sharing his expertise. He's the founder of Youpreneur, an educational company that helps experts and coaches become industry leaders. He's also the author of two acclaimed books, Virtual Freedom and The Rise of the Youpreneur. And he has a new book coming up soon that I'm excited to share with you and talk about, The Long Haul Leader. On a personal note, I'm so excited to have you, Chris, here with us, because actually my business and my journey as an entrepreneur have changed dramatically after reading the Virtual Freedom book and getting into the situation where I start hiring VAs and getting some help, all the way to the point now that we have now in Kiwi Media 17 virtual assistants and professionals, all from the Philippines. It's a complete agency marketing stack. And I walked this journey just because I had the confidence after reading your book. So it's a great honor to have you here with us on Beyond Six Figures. How are you, Chris Ducker?
I'm doing great, man. That is a fantastic story. I love hearing stories like that, like going beyond the one VA. And there's nothing wrong with just having one virtual assistant, obviously, but growing an entire team, an entire business around the model of working with virtual assistants, particularly in the Philippines, is very near and dear to my heart, even after all these years. I mean, Virtual Freedom was released in 2010. It was a long, long time ago, but I still meet people regularly now, all these years later, saying how much the book has meant to them and how much genuine freedom it's brought their lives from an entrepreneurial perspective, but also from a, just a lifestyle perspective overall. So I'm excited to be with you. I appreciate the invite to come on, and looking forward to the chat.
So I want to start by just learning more about jumping directly to the new book, because this is something that I feel like you're niching up in a way, because you already did your journey of niching down. You found your niche, you were successful in it, and then you evolved into helping people future-proof their businesses by understanding their own personal brand. And now it seems like you're going into something even almost to a level of helping people in their lives, not just in their businesses. What do you think about that hypothesis?
I think it's pretty spot on. I think the analogy is a good one of niching up. I've not even actually thought about it in that regards, except until just now when you've mentioned it. Because when I first started online in 2008, I genuinely didn't really think much about niches. I just wanted to share my own journey at that point of about 4 or 5 years of building my own business at that point. And I was like, I'm going to share my journey, the ups and downs, the ugly bits, the important and the celebratory moments and all that kind of stuff. And then the book offer came along for Virtual Freedom because I had been talking a lot about my journey with working with virtual assistants and how I was building my team, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what happened was because the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss was still quite raw and quite new in people's minds, where Tim obviously talked about virtual assistants and outsourcing parts of your life, I kind of became this go-to source for anything and everything to do with virtual assistants. I didn't set out to do that. I want to make that clear, but it just happened. And I decided instead of kind of swimming against that current that I was going to focus on swimming with it and just pick up speed and just trying to help as many people as I could. And so I did niche down into the VA and the outsourcing world, right? It helped that I was running businesses within that industry, like real brick and mortar businesses, certainly because I could come to that party with like a certain amount of authority already. I wasn't just starting out of nowhere. And then, as time went by and my personal brand grew and grew and grew, by the time the next book came about, Rise of the Youpreneur in 2018, then all I was doing was just talking about what I was already doing, which was building my own personal brand. So it came like really, really naturally to talk about those two things. And honestly, I thought I was done writing books, quite frankly, with the second book. I didn't think I would write another book. And then the pandemic happened. And then I burnt out pretty badly, kind of halfway through the pandemic. And that made me start to question a lot of my priorities as a business owner, as a husband, as a father, et cetera, et cetera. And so I started to really look at the other aspects of my life rather than just business stuff. And I realized, holy moly, like I'm really aligned in certain directions, but in other directions and other topics and subjects, I was horribly misaligned. And so I had to make a lot of changes. And so the third book now, The Long Haul Leader, comes about again, just like the first two, talking about nothing but the things that I've experienced. And I think those are the books that really have the most profound effect on those that read them. Because when you're talking about something that you've gone through yourself, it's hard not to come from a place of service. And that's what it's all about.
First of all, I'm sorry that you had to go through like a burnout phase. And it's actually more common than people think for entrepreneurs to get through a phase like that. If I remember correctly, that wasn't the first time that you walked yourself out of health, of a healthy place. And it happened to you before and was like a part of, I would call it your origin story in a way in the past. So I'm sorry to touch like a topic that is a bit sensitive, potentially, maybe even somewhat painful to remember. But I think it's important for the listeners to hear the ugly truth of burnout. After recovering from burnout myself, like doing at some point 21 meetings a day and coaching myself to death in a way, feeling like I'm in prison, not seeing the sunlight at all for like 6 days a week. I got to that burnout myself and I had to do a lot of things to help me heal and build up my motivation. What really got you out of the pandemic with a book and like renewed energy and newfound knowledge?
There was a lot of things that I needed to do. So my first burnout happened in 2010. And that was just your very typical entrepreneurial burnout. It was me working 16-hour days, 6 days a week, drinking too much coffee, not exercising, eating a crappy diet. Your typical kind of entrepreneurial burnout that you hear about, a lot of the time, right? And I got out of that. I got healthy, et cetera, et cetera. This burnout, though, was different. This burnout was both physical as well as mental. I went through an entire period of depression, which I didn't see coming at all. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a really positive, go-lucky kind of guy. Like I'm very rarely down. I try and look at the positive, more situations, et cetera, et cetera. And yet I realized that I wasn't traveling. I love to travel. I wasn't seeing my friends. I love my friends. I wasn't speaking on stage. I love speaking on stage. So all these things were kind of taken away from me because of the pandemic. We couldn't do any of those things. And so I went into a depression. Not only that, but unbeknownst to me at the time, as part of getting over that depression, I went through a bout of physical tests and I did a lot of blood work and the whole thing, right? And we discovered that I had phase 3 adrenal fatigue. So I was basically flatlined. I wasn't creating any cortisol at all, which, as we know, is our stress hormone. And so I wasn't handling stress very well, which added to the burnout. So I really needed to look at 2 or 3 major parts of my life. It's funny you mentioned your burnout being one where you were stuck in a room for 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, or whatever it was. And you would very rarely see the light of day because you would just work. That was a similar situation. But the 3 things that I did that made the biggest difference to me, that enabled me to get over the burnout and be in a place of harmony now, like genuine peace and harmony. The first thing I did was I started getting out into nature as much as I possibly could. So much so now that I have become, 4 years later, I am now what I would class as an amateur conservationist. I am a huge wildlife and nature advocate. I've become a bird watcher, which, trust me, I did not see coming at all. Like, I walk around with these big lenses on my camera and all that sort of stuff. So that was the first thing. I get out of nature as much as I possibly can. Secondly, was I needed to start looking inside of my body rather than just the outside of it. So every quarter now, I have blood work done. I have somebody who comes to my house, they draw the blood, and they see where any deficiencies may lie. Now, at first, there was a lot of deficiencies. I was kind of all over the place. But now it's a lot more in check. But the reason why I do it every 90 days is so that I can then work with my natural functional medicine doctor on supplementation and diet and things like that. So I've become really attuned to sort of what's going on inside my body and how I can kind of maximize my energy levels and things like that through things like diet and supplements. And then the third thing that I started doing, and again, this is something that a lot of us see online, particularly on social media, but I never thought I would ever get involved with any of this biohacking stuff that people talk about all the time. Yet here I am on my property here in Cambridge in England. I have a full body red light therapy panel. I have a cold plunge, and I have a sauna all on my property now. And these are the things that I do to rid my body of toxins, to boost inflammation, or rather reduce inflammation, boost energy levels. And we've even installed our own yoga studio and gym on our property as well. So we've got everything we need right here under our noses. There is zero excuse for staying fit and healthy now. Zero. And so those are the kind of the 3 big things that I did in terms of my health and my wellness. There's other things, obviously, from a business perspective, which comes into play. And if we want to talk about those, we can. But ultimately, I needed to take a very hard look at the way I was living my life and make some pretty big changes.
Actually, I'm curious about the stuff that you do on top of these 3 that maybe you've done that before, but are also key aspects of business owners and coaches that helps them stay in focus, because there's a lot of tasks that needs to be done, and burnout will remove your motivation. And like, even counting on motivation is not a really good idea. You want to build up the habits and so on. Yeah. So I want to ask you, do you use a coach? Do you have mentors? Do you have mastermind groups or anything like that you participate in with people? I know that you run circles, inner circles and so on, and that you help people as a coach, but do you actually use these yourself, if you don't mind sharing?
I absolutely do. 100%. I don't know how much money I've invested in coaches, consultants, mentors, masterminds, events, things like that, to be able to up-level my expertise, my interest in business growth in general. If I had to put like a dollar amount on it, including travel and things like that, I think it's probably like $500,000. And I don't pluck that number out of the sky, kind of out of nowhere. Like, I think that's probably a pretty good estimate, because I am part of 2 masterminds that run concurrently. I also have a mentor that I work with on a monthly basis. And I've had many coaches in the past as well. Obviously, I run my own program. We have our roundtable mastermind, which really kind of focuses on the UK and Europe, but because of time zone differences more than anything else. But investing in your growth as an entrepreneur is paramount. It's absolutely paramount. And it will have a direct effect on how successful you become as a business owner. Make no mistake about that. A lot of people look at things like joining a mastermind, for example, or hiring a coach, for example. They look at that as a cost. That is the wrong attitude to go into that relationship with. This is not a cost. This is an investment in your growth and your success as an entrepreneur. And if you can go into those relationships with that mindset rather than the financial cost mindset, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that you will become a successful person because you're going into those relationships and those situations with the right mindset in the first place.
I love it. And also I love the values that are actually like between the lines. There's a lot of values here that you're sharing with us about professional development, about being open and humble to always be learning. And I think that just like doctors have doctors that help them with second opinions and psychotherapists and psychologists, they have to go to see a psychologist and see a therapist themselves so that they have like a place for consultation and support. And in business coaching, there's no like body of like it's not legislated, it's not organized in a way where they will say, yeah, you have to, if you want your license, you have to go and see a coach.
This is where I think, a lot of people maybe potentially come into those situations in a negative mindset because they might have heard of somebody hiring a coach and not getting the return on their investment, or maybe they've had a bad experience before themselves or whatever it is. But I'm a big believer. I see myself as a leader of obviously an online community, a leader of entrepreneurs, a leader just across the board in the industry. Like I didn't really attribute myself that title until maybe 5 or 6 years or so ago, but I've done enough. I've earned enough. I know enough to call myself a leader now. But one thing I'm acutely aware of is that a leader must continue to learn in order to continue to lead. They must. The day that we stop learning new things is the day that we actually start dwindling away in terms of that leadership label. And so, I'm consistently up-leveling myself, whether it be hiring coaches or reading books or listening to podcasts or going to events or being a part of mastermind, whatever it is, like you got to keep learning. You just have to.
And this brings me back to your book that is coming up, The Long Haul Leader, because you share 10 strategies in it to work smarter, live better, and achieve lasting success. And it sounds to me that you're starting to think more in your life about legacy. Yeah. And you already built some amazing things. You've already made a dent to so many people with your books. And now you're thinking about something that is even bigger and that is like long lasting. Can you tell me a little bit about what's your motivation with the new book, with your next journey, if you will, of like your next evolution, your next phase in your evolution?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the past, right, and you look into history, people like Nelson Mandela, Bruce Lee, I talk about these individuals in the book, Nelson Mandela, Bruce Lee, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, right? All these guys have left a lasting impact in the work that they've done, the people that they've met and touched and inspired, et cetera, et cetera. But likewise, all of those individuals and anyone that you can say has a legend or has a legacy, all those people are well aware of the fact that it takes hard work to build a legacy. But in one way, shape, or form, they were all also long-haul leaders, as far as I'm concerned. Because even if you look at people like LeBron James in the NBA, LeBron James, a basketball player, I mean, still playing the game at a very, very high level, probably should have retired a couple of years ago, according to basketball fans or analysts, but here he is still dropping 30 points every game, right? So you look at somebody like him, he's a long-haul leader because he invests time, energy, and effort into keeping his main thing, which is his basketball career, his main thing. So he'll spend time in the hyperbaric chambers. He'll spend time in the cryotherapy chambers. He'll spend time working with a private chef to fuel his body, et cetera, et cetera. So it's becoming acutely aware of the impact that you have while you're still doing what you're doing. For me personally, the legacy I'm trying to create is not necessarily about being a successful business owner or even for that matter, inspiring a whole bunch of other business owners. My biggest legacy is going to be my children. Like, I want my children to look at me and say, when I grow up, I want to be like dad. And so I can then turn around and say to them, no, don't be like me. Be better than me. Like, I'm trying to set the bar for the people that I love the most in my life, right? So success may come, success may go, but we will always want to hold on to any good thing for as long as we can. But everything obviously eventually comes to an end. And for me personally, when everything is done and I leave this earth and I go wherever I go, I want people to be able to turn around and say, Chris Ducker was a good guy. He was a good friend. He was a great husband, great father. And he actually did some pretty cool stuff in the business world too. That's my legacy. But everybody has their own wants and dreams and aspirations. Yeah.
So let's try and dive into a couple of the principles in the book, if you don't mind, trying to give some practical advice to the listeners. They are business coaches. They are not ready to invest into owning a spa and a sauna. I don't know what, like they're still not there yet. They can't afford a private chef like James LeBron can. And they are mainly struggling with finding a way to become fully booked. And your long haul, I'm actually super curious about this. I can't wait to have the book in my hand, and we're working on this to happen as soon as it goes live. Maybe by the time people listen to this, it's already will go live or almost go live and be published. But your principles, because they are long-term, because they are helping people become a long-haul leader, I think that they will be very useful for business coaches, because it's not about a specific milestone, and it's bigger than a specific problem. Oh, your advertising doesn't work. Oh, you need to improve your sales. It's something that makes you become a bigger person in a way. So tell us an example of one or two of these principles that you think will apply the most for business coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. So the business coach industry has become $1 billion business, right? So there's a lot of great business coaches out there. I think really the two or three that I would focus in on, and obviously there's 10 main principles here inside the book, but the top three that I would go into, first and foremost, is that long-haul leaders invest in meaningful relationships. I want to dive into this a little bit because I believe relationships should be treasured. They shouldn't be used. I've been saying that for decades. And ultimately, what we want to be doing is we want to be showing up for the people who matter most and refuse to take those relationships for granted. And I'm not just talking about family and friends. I'm talking a little bit more here about business peers, clients, that sort of thing. To build a true relationship is not something that happens in a matter of weeks or months. To build a true relationship, a deep relationship, a meaningful relationship, that takes years, and it is something that you should work on. And you should never take those types of relationships for granted. That's for sure. The second thing that I think we should touch on is the fact that long-haul leaders really focus on the right priorities for the moment, and they let go of the rest. When I say that, what I mean is that they concentrate on doing the work that only they can do, and they stay in their zone of genius, and they either automate or they delegate the rest of the stuff that they need to deal with. So when it comes to business coaches, for example, yes, we want to build great relationships with our clients, our prospects, and things like that. But when it comes to staying in our zone of genius as a business coach, what does that look like? Well, I know what it looks like because I'm a business coach now. I'm done being kind of the serial entrepreneur. Like, I've sold my 2 businesses. We've still got one going, but I'm kind of not involved with the day-to-day running of that business anymore. So I spend most of my time coaching business owners now. And so I can tell you right now, my zone of genius, first and foremost, is coaching my clients. That should definitely take up the bulk of the time that I spend at work. Secondly, it's spreading my message and sharing my frameworks. I do that by coming on podcasts like this, or keynoting events or doing private workshops or whatever it is. And then thirdly is creating content that only I can create and publishing that content out in the world to continue to get on that soapbox and spread my message further. So that's my zone of genius. I focus on the right priorities and I let go of the rest. And then the third thing is that, and I mean, there's so many great principles, but like picking 2 or 3 is tough. I think the third thing though is that long haul leaders really do set the right pace for them. When I say that, what I mean is that they know that going too slow or too fast ends up being a liability. It's kind of like the Goldilocks story, right? One bowl of porridge is too hot, one's too cold, but the other one is just right. And that's our sweet spot. That's where we need to be. And so, we know that ultimately hustle, and unfortunately our culture has been just hammered with this hustle, the idea of hustle all the time. Hustle is a season. It's not a lifestyle. It can't be a lifestyle. If it turns into a lifestyle, then burnout is inevitable. It's not a matter of if it'll happen. It's just a matter of when. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we set the right pace, that we hustle and we put our foot down on the gas when we need to for short spurts of time. And then we release our foot from the gas pedal and we slow down and we recalibrate, rejig our juices and things like that. So those are kind of like 3 big things for business coaches.
I love it. So like relationships and valuing relationships, that's something that is also known to be said that Warren Buffett and other very, very successful rich people would say, like, it's the relationships that they value the most, right? And this mindset, it's not enough to just say, yeah, I love maintaining the relationships. You actually have to do it. It's not something you say, it's something you do. That's how you actually measure how successful your relationships are in a way. And prioritizing and being here now and understanding where is your zone of genius is something that I really value. And I want to ask you a little bit deeper on that one, because now for you, spreading your message, that's a part of your zone of genius. But as you said, many times, many days of the week, it's actually you coaching. That's where you bring the most value. That's one of the things that you do that is so valuable. So I wonder, just on the very technical, practical things that is currently happening for you. I know that for you, acquiring a client, convincing, selling, all of those things, they have different mechanics. After years of keynote speaking and successful best-selling books and all of your impact, and I'm still wondering, what does it look like? How does someone become a client of you or as a coach?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because I think in the coaching industry particularly, there's a big problem going on right now. And that is that people are trying to shortcut the landing of a client process. When I say it, or making a sale, they think that they can run a Facebook ad, offer something free, get them onto the email list, hammer them with emails, get them onto a webinar, pitch, make the offer. But honestly, that is not how we bring in the majority of our dream clients. It really is not. I would say that the average client that we bring on board comes in after they've known us for probably about 18 months. So much like the long haul leader principle of going at the right pace, we develop that relationship over that right pace as well, or with that right pace. Now, with that being said, if somebody discovers me in January and they want to sign up for one of our programs in March or April because they've consumed enough of our content and they know what we're all about, sure, if they're the right type of person, we'll take them on board, right? But 9 times out of 10, most people will go through at least 5 or 6 touch points with us over that period of a year or so plus. They'll get onto my email list for sure. They're going to be on my email list. They're going to get my weekly newsletter, which is called Future Proof. They're going to be on that mailing list. Secondly, it's highly likely that they've probably heard me speak or be interviewed on a podcast somewhere as well. So that's a second touch point. Thirdly, they're probably going to watch me do some sort of virtual training, whether it be a masterclass with another community, or maybe it's a public webinar or something like that. So that's another touch point. Number 4, it's highly likely they're going to pick up one of my books, so to understand my ethos and my frameworks in a deeper way. And then finally, the really big one is that they attend one of our live events. And our live events are world class. We've been running live events for 15 years now, and I believe we put on some of the best live events in the industry. And so, for example, we have our live event coming up in November in Cambridge, England. It's called the Long Haul Leader Summit. Tickets are on sale right now, actually. And what I love about doing this weekend, it's a Saturday and a Sunday, November 1 and 2. What I love doing about this weekend is not the fact that I get to share all my ideas, or I get to introduce you to lots of great, smart friends of mine because they're there to speak or anything like that. What I truly love about this live event is that people get the opportunity to meet other people that are on the same journey as them, the other attendees. And that's the superpower. Once they get those 4 or 5 touch points and they understand the power of community and the power of not only learning from somebody who can teach them something new, but more importantly, learning from other people all around them as well, then they're highly, highly likely to jump on board one of our coaching programs or masterminds. And so that's kind of the process of how we sign up new business coaching clients. But it's not a forced, I want to make it clear, like, we don't hammer people with emails or DMs on social or anything like that. Like, if anything, I've never thought about it like this, but I'm going to say it right now. If anything, we're not selling a service. We're almost like buying our customers. Like, you need to convince us that you're the right person for that group. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they have to go through some sort of a qualification process to qualify to work with you personally. And I wonder if that final step before you approve someone, you find them qualified, is there a conversation held with someone in your team? Is it directly with you? How does that look like?
Yeah. So a lot of the times I'll have those discussions with people at live events. So generally, we don't need to do that type of conversation, right? Because they've known me, the application has come in, they understand what I'm all about and how I can serve them. And so we don't really need a conversation. Once they jump on board, obviously, I always do what I call a kickstart call with any of our new clients, where it's a 45-minute call. All of my calls are 45 minutes. And we always go through kind of like how they can get a whole bunch of quick wins within their first 90 days of working with me. That's kind of like key, right? But if for whatever reason it happens that they kind of come through the process when we're not at a live event, or we haven't met at a live event before, then yes, a phone call or a Zoom call will take place. 9 times out of 10, that will be initially with somebody on my team. And then if my team member says this person would be perfect for this program or this program, then I will usually jump on and have like a 15, 20-minute call with them as well, just to make sure. Because as much as I want to make sure that they're right for our group, I also want to make sure that our group is right for them. I don't want anybody coming into our programs that aren't going to get just a huge amount of return on that investment, right? So that's generally how we do it.
So what would you consider a good client for your needs? Like maybe a listener is listening right now. Maybe they already have a few touch points with you because they are listening to this podcast. They read your book. They maybe are planning to attend the summit, the Long Haul Summit in November. And then what would you consider? Like, I want all of the listeners now to know, what are you looking for in a client?
Yeah, sure. So I'm looking for people, generally they're in 2 different camps, okay? The first camp is somebody that is, and this is our lower end offer. And just because it's lower doesn't mean that it's not worth it. It's just, we pair people together in one of 2 groups. Our first group is people, they're wanting to achieve that 6-figure annual revenue income. And they're kind of floating around the $5,000, $6,000 or pounds or euros per month. And they just can't, for whatever reason, they just can't get over that 10,000 a month hurdle that you need to get to in order to get the 6 figures a year, right? So that's the first type of person. That type of person generally will have a good online presence. They'll already have one or two offers that they're offering their people. So we've got a basis for us to be able to help them grow. But more importantly, what they really lack is the support and the accountability that they'll get through working with me, team, and everybody else around them. So that's the first group. The second group is for our roundtable mastermind. These people are generally going to be making around no less than $250,000 a year. Some of them are going to be $500,000. And we've got a number of people that are already at 7 figures and beyond in that group. Those guys are not necessarily worried too much about making more money. What they want is more freedom. So they want more freedom from being stuck in the job or in the business and not kind of working on it at the higher level. They want more freedom of lifestyle as well. Like one of the big things that we promote everybody when they come into the round table is, right, who is ready to start their 4-day work week? Like I haven't worked a Friday for 9 years. So I want to try and instill that on everybody else as well. So are you ready for a 4-day work week? If not, can you maybe take half a day off twice a week? Because it all adds up to the same amount of time. So little things like that. Like we have one of our members, her name is Jenny. She's amazing. She's in the communications sector here in the UK. And she was making about £300,000 a year when she joined us. Within about 2 years, she had doubled that. So she was at like 650 a year. She was doing really good, making loads of money, very, very happy. And then she came to me and she said, Chris, I kind of feel like I don't want to make any more money. Like I don't need more money. What I need is more time. So I need to start figuring out how I can remove myself way more than I already have. Got it. So that becomes the new mission for Jenny. It's about lifestyle. It's about working less, maybe even making a little less, but working way, way, way less at the same time so she can enjoy time with her husband, her family, and all that good stuff as well. So that's generally the two types of people. Now, I will say, I'll caveat this as well. There is generally, every now and then, I'll get a private client that comes my way as well. I generally don't work one-on-one with people anymore because they tend to fit in one of those two groups. But every now and then, there'll be somebody, maybe they're already at like 7 figures and beyond. They want to double down on certain aspects of their business. For example, at the end of last year, one of our businesses, Virtual Staff Finder, was acquired by another company called WorkPod, who is also based over in the Philippines. WorkPod, amazing. And they're doing lots and lots of great stuff in the outsourcing world. So we were acquired by them. By the way, if anybody is looking for a VA in the Philippines, you should, I'm going to give you a link real quick. So workpod.com/Chris. Now, WorkPod is spelled WRKPOD. So there's no O in the work. So workpod.com/Chris. They've got loads of freebies and stuff like that for people to be able to like grab a hold of in terms of hiring VAs, working with VAs, managing VAs and all that good stuff. So make sure you check that link out if you're interested in the VA side of things, because they're a world-class organization. They really, really are. So anyway, getting back to the story here, we sold that company to WorkPod. And a couple of weeks later, somebody had seen a post that I put up on Facebook, and they reached out to me and they said, I want to get my company ready to be acquired in the next 2 to 3 years. Could you coach me through the principles and the processes for that to take place? They had no idea how to do it, how to get their financials in place, how to get their team in place, et cetera, et cetera. So I said, yeah, sure. Let's do a 3-month process with each other. And we did that from January through to the end of March this year. And that, I can tell you right now, that was at the fee of £5,000 per month. So every now and then I will have these one-on-one clients come my way, but generally they've got one problem. They've got one problem that they need to fix. So it doesn't need them to be around for an entire year. Sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes it's 6 months, but that's generally the way that people kind of fit into all those different buckets.
And in the group buckets, are these also time-bound or are these year-long?
Yeah, good question. So the kind of the lower group, for people who are wanting to get the 6 figures and beyond, that group is a 6-month program. So it's a 6-month program. Because they've already got the foundations, and this is really important, is because they've already got the foundations, they've got a couple of offers, a couple of things that they can sell, they've got a half-decent email list, they've got a half-decent online platform, and I'm not talking like tens of thousands of followers or whatever, but they're active, they're taking it seriously. Because they've got all that in place, if you're stuck at $60,000, $70,000 a year, I know through my training, if you do the work, we will get you over 100,000 inside of 6 months. There is zero doubt in my mind because I've seen dozens and dozens and dozens of people, hundreds of people go through that training and do it. So yeah, that's a 6-month program. And then the roundtable mastermind, that is a 1-year commitment because we don't like turnover in the group. It's a 1-year commitment, and then people just stay for as long as they want after that. We've got members that have been part of that group for 5-6 years already.
And tell me about a situation where you decided to say no to a client.
Oh yeah. I say no way more than I say yes nowadays. I think what it is, this is kind of like a visceral thing. It's a visceral thing. The longer you do something, you become more and more aware of the type of person that's going to work well and the type of person that's not going to work well with your group. We had somebody come on board recently to one of our programs, and within 6 weeks, not even that, maybe 5 weeks, I realized that this person wasn't the right person for the group. And so I had a conversation with them and I said, I don't think we're the right group for you. I'm going to refund your money. I'm going to cancel your commitment. And, I wish you all the best. And that was the way I handled it. It wasn't really a discussion where this person could potentially try and talk me around and try and convince me to allow them to stay. I made the call. I followed my gut. And I ultimately told them that they needed to leave. And I will say, as we wrap up our conversation here, I'll say that another thing that the long haul leaders pay really close attention to is that gut instinct, because I don't think I've ever redacted the idea of following my gut. Like I've never gotten a bad decision out of following my gut as a business owner. I've done it on multiple occasions, and it's just something that I've never, ever worried about. Like my gut will never, ever let me down.
Love it. One last topic I wanted to touch point with you, because you help people get to the 6 figures and, of course, later go beyond with your higher level mastermind offering and coaching offering. I wonder about what do you think about AI, and specifically in what are some of the caveats, some of the mistakes that you see people, especially the lower tier that are, they have a couple of offers, they have some presence, but then AI can become something that they abuse or rely on. And I'm just wondering, what's your point of view? How do we, in other words, how do we actually avoid a problem in this world, which is that we just have all these AI coaches?
Yeah, 100%. This is why I'm not worried about AI hurting our business, because our business is a coaching business. Sure, you can go to Google, you can go to ChatGPT or Claude or any of the other ones that are out there and ask it questions, and it will give you feedback and ideas and things like that. But the one big error that I see people making, regardless of where they're at actually in the journey, whether they're beginning, whether they're in the middle, or whether they're very advanced, the one big error that I see people making is that they become too reliant on AI to produce the content that they need to produce in order to attract the right type of clients to come their way in the first place. And the reason why it's an error is not because it's AI generated. That's not what it is. The problem here is that it's not you. It's not from you. And people want to do business with other people, right? If you want to attract the right type of clients towards your coaching business, you need to be the one creating that content. You need to be the one writing that YouTube script or writing that article or newsletter or blog post. It can't be AI. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't utilize AI to come up with ideas and frameworks and all that sort of stuff, but you need to interject as much of you as you possibly can, because people will do business with you because of that exact thing, because they get to know you.
We could have research, just get AI that read your books and that knows everything that you do, just show up and write some answers to our questions. But that would not feel like as valuable as hearing your in-the-moment answer at this moment, you have all these years of knowledge in you, but you maybe have learned a new thing, a new trick just yesterday.
And not to mention the fact that AI makes mistakes all the time. Just the other day, I was demonstrating to somebody how AI makes mistakes all the time. And I asked ChatGPT, which we do use in our business to come up with ideas and things like that. I asked ChatGPT to write a online bio for me. And I wanted to see how much it had learned about me. Now, truth be told, it actually learned quite a lot about me through working with the platform over the last 6 to 9 months. But it also made 2 really bad mistakes as well with the bio. First of all, it said I only had 2 children. I've got 4 children. And anybody that knows me well enough and has been in my ecosystem for a while knows I've got 4 children because I talk about that fact. And the second thing, how it got this, I've got no idea. But for some reason, it said that I lived in Barcelona. I don't live in Barcelona. I live in the English countryside here in Cambridge, right? So it makes mistakes. And that's why you can't rely on it. You just can't rely on it, at least not yet anyway.
Yeah. And I think that what's scaring me, it's become so easy. One prompt for the content plan, one prompt for the actual posts, one prompt for an email, one prompt for the visuals, one prompt for the course, one prompt for the lessons, right. One prompt for the videos. So many of them that you could just get done so many things fast. But then it's all without any soul. And the reason why people choose you as their coach, specifically you, Chris Ducker, is because you went through with your body and your emotions and your experience. You went through so many things and you are so coherent and so you deconstruct ideas and you can see through the noise and see what's important and articulate that. And all of that there's a soul in it. If you go and you just try to get everything, and this is true also for delegation, right? Like the whole point of this, I think, from my standpoint, the youpreneur ethos, if I may say, is that it's you. It's not you as in the team that constructs a you. It's you. It's actually you. So you have to find yourself. You have to deal with the nasty parts of actually thinking about things, actually trying to be innovative, actually trying to be useful and practical and helpful and to have proven results for your clients.
Could not agree with you more. Everything you've just said just there makes total sense, because the other thing is here that if we rely on anything, whether it be AI or anything else for that matter, it could be a member of staff. It could be a member of our team, right? If we rely on that person too much, or AI or whatever it is, we lose a part of that soul. We lose a part of how we can be of service and be useful to other people as well. And again, as long haul leaders, we don't want that to happen.
We have to set the pace, as you say in your book, the long haul leader, and prioritize and see through this to actually be present. And I want to just wrap up with me saying that you don't want also to build relationships through AI. You want the actual thing, the actual emotional connection. Speaking of emotional connection, Chris Tucker, it's been such a meaningful day for me here right now to meet you. You've catapulted my journey with your book, Virtual Freedom, and with your support. I'm so grateful and humbled by seeing how you continue to help and move people's lives. And I hope your 4 children look up to their dad and do way better than you one day.
There you go.
I salute to that legacy. And I just wanted to thank you. Where should people go if they want to learn more about your stuff?
Yeah, I mean, so if they want to check up a copy of the book, they can totally do that. We're on pre-orders right now. So they can go to longhaulleader.com. And if they order the book and send us a copy of their receipt, we'll get over $600 worth of businesses or bonuses rather. So we've got lots of business training in there, growth training, a few other bits and pieces as well. Honestly, it's a really, really good bonus package. You should buy the book just for the bonuses, even if you don't even read the book. So longhaulleader.com. And if they want to find out more about me and what I do, then just hit me up on Instagram at Chris Ducker. Nice and easy.
And we'll put all the notes, all the links in the show notes, including some additional links that we believe that you should check out of other stuff that Chris Ducker has been involved in. Thank you again, Chris Ducker, and thank you everyone for listening for another episode of Beyond Six Figures.
Thanks for listening to Beyond Six Figures. Check out the extended show notes that include bonus material, practical tips, and exclusive resources on our website, zivraviv.com. Until next time, keep dreaming big and pushing your business and your life beyond six figures.